Hello and welcome to rainy Munich, where I'm looking at the brand new BMW X3 and I'm here at the BMW Academy. So if you hear tyre noise in the distance, it's some M cars drifting just over there. What is this? Well, this is the car that BMW say launched the small SUV segment way back in 2003. They've sold 3.5 million of these cars around the world. And in 2023, the X3 was the best-selling BMW globally. So no pressure then on this fourth generation of the car, which, by the way, in 2025 will come with a 6-cylinder diesel engine in certain markets in Europe. Yes, you heard me correctly. We will see an iX3 down the line, of course. There'll also be a PHEV version of this car, which will be of particular interest to Irish customers. That will go into production in just a few weeks' time. A 19.7 kilowatt hour battery, 11 kilowatt AC charging as standard. You'll get that on public charging and maybe at a business, not at home, and a range of 90 kilometers, so BMW say. And again, a huge proportion of PHEV sales in the X3 will go to Europe, no doubt including Ireland, due to the cheapest entry-level price of the new X3. And for the Chinese market, there's even going to be a long wheelbase version of the car, which will be produced exclusively in China. So the roofline is now lower. It certainly feels sportier. I personally, on the exterior, think it looks pretty good, actually. Again, the last X3, it kind of was just oddly proportioned, perhaps. This now has a much more baby X5 feeling about the car, as far as I'm concerned. It's a little bit longer as well than the previous model. You have the L signature headlights and the same on the rear of the car. But do you agree from the side, is it kind of, it has a more straight down front, same on the back, giving it that X5 baby brother look? Do you agree? Let me know. A couple of notes on the front nose of the car then. So you have this BMW iconic grille, which is what they're now calling it. You have the illumination around the edge, a drag coefficient of 0.27, which is pretty good for an SUV, and some active air curtains over the front of the car. Certainly feels like a longer bonnet. It has a nice stance to it. If you're not quite convinced in the film, perhaps you need to see it in the flesh, but it is pretty good looking for an SUV. Even with these huge sets of kidney grills on the front, you can decide whether they're vertical or horizontal depending on design. We've seen that on the really expensive BMW XM, which I reviewed last year. You can watch that here on the channel if you like. The spoiler is nicely angled in from this middle part of the boot, and then it quickly swoops back in, almost like the boot on earlier generation 1 Series models, the way it moves in. So I love that there's little nods of other BMW heritage vehicles in there. The L signature also featured now in the back. And again, these rear lights are very much connected to the X5 model. There's, again, more similarities. And if you get the M Sport version, you have contrasting black shadow line, I believe it's called, down below. Electric tailgate, which will lose a bit of space on the PHEV, but is still a really usable boot. We're talking 460 to 570 litres, again, depending on which model you have. X-Drive, PHEV models, all changing that. You'll get about 5 suitcases in the larger versions. Easy to slide things in and out, as you can see here, because you have a flat lip on the boot, and below here a little bit of space for, in this case, some netting as part of the boot. And in the PHEV version you'll have a bit of space for your Type 2 charging cables. You can cover everything away then with a really useful, flexible boot cover. These might feel like they're a cheap alternative, but actually when you have smaller children and you need to get bikes and things in, these are actually really useful for being able to bend things around, and you know, it just gives you additional flexibility when you need it most. So good size boot, a little bit smaller perhaps for the size of car if you're affected by some of those factors that I mentioned to make it the smaller boot space. Weather's lovely, isn't it? In terms of engines then, there's the PHEV version, which is 80% of sales in Europe, believe it or not. Probably higher again when we look at this car in Ireland. It's also the cheapest due to our emission rules. So €70,000 for the entry-level car. This M Sport version in a plug-in hybrid will be closer to €76,000. But if you spec an R-Line Volkswagen Tiguan these days, that's also not a cheap car. And for a little bit extra, and again, if you're buying by PCP or whatever, it may work out not majorly different when it comes to repayments, you could be in a BMW. And for some people, that will be worth the extra premium price. There will be a diesel version in Ireland as well, unlike the 520, which now isn't available with one here. Unlike in Germany, where you can buy one because the country's so big and you might drive instead of flying across one side to the other. Anyway, at least in the X3, if you want a diesel option, you can get one. There's also an M50 performance version. You're talking well over 100 grand for that. Not sure if it's going to be a big seller in Ireland, so my priority today was to grab this version, which is just petrol. In the back of the X3, things are pretty spacious. Now, this obviously is a mix of PHEV and diesel and all kinds of transmission options. So you do get a tunnel or a hump in the floor, as we like to call it. So you'll obviously get 3 people in the back, but the outer passengers will have a little bit more comfort. There's little sliders here for charging devices and maybe attaching some accessories onto that for tablets. The back of the seats do cut in here to give you some more leg room, but they are quite large, and backs of those seats is hard plastic, not even soft textured plastic. The batteries in the PHEV version will go under here, so it remains to be seen, because this isn't a plug-in hybrid version, not in production yet, does that affect the height of this rear bench? Because at the moment there is an abundance of headroom, even with the glass roof. You get lots and lots of space, and then for your center armrest, good angle on that. I would like to have seen some tablet holders here as well. If Renault and Skoda can do it in cheaper cars, then why not BMW? You need to join the party, my German friends. Climate control screen down here for rear passengers and 2 USB-C charging ports. And again, it will probably be model specific, but you get nets in the back of this particular car. So comfortable, bench reasonably supportive of the backs of your legs, and what's possibly unusual is the texture, which is no doubt from PET recycled materials, but I just wonder with kids' hands and chicken nuggets and chocolate bars and ice cream and suntan, how will these fabric materials last in the test of time? Inside the X3 then, very much the way BMW are going with the latest 5 and 7 and now 1 series, although you still now have your full iDrive complements here. The jewellery box storage area, which BMW call it, complete with some drink storage, 2 USB-C, 2 wireless charging plates, and it's always open, so that can't be covered. Again, like previous models we've seen, such as the hazard lights going on, changes the ambient lighting in the car. There's also now these funky X3 areas that you can change the climate control. There's a little shortcut on it. That's very good just in terms of the intensity of the fan, because I did notice some of the windows were steaming up at times today. You can't use this as a door pull. I mean, you can open it and then you can use that handle, but then when you close it, the latch is not released, so you nearly have to let go of it before. It's messy. You'll end up just using the lower part of the car here. And then the curved screen that we've seen on other versions of BMWs also now makes its way into the X3, all the apps and widgets and things that are there, the driver instrument, head-up display, depending on what options you have spec'd. M Sport seats are, as always, wonderfully comfortable, extenders on the edges of it, and again, more of this fabric in here that I mean, if you can keep grubby fingers off it, fine, but I wouldn't be eating a breakfast roll in the front of this car, put it that way. Once you get the engine up and running, unless you're in the PHEV version of course, you'll feel a sense of quietness, calmness. It feels premium, it feels nicely cocooned is the word they've used for the interior. You do sort of feel a little bit cocooned from the outside world, and in these 6-degree lovely, it's not even barely mid-September weather here in Munich, your heated seat and steering wheel, which is on an automatic program, is most welcome. As I mentioned, there is a 6-cylinder diesel engine coming, but not for Ireland, and there's another petrol version that won't be available in Europe at all. That's the X3 30 X-Drive, 4-cylinder, 255 brake horsepower engine. Now the plug-in hybrid is actually going to be 299 brake horsepower when you have it working in tandem with the motor and the petrol engine. So that's a quick car. It's a little over 6 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour, but still, it's a family car. The 2-litre diesel has 197 brake horsepower, 400 newton meters of torque. So if you like your longer journeys, overtaking, that's the car for you. Kilometer muncher. This petrol engine has 208 brake horsepower, and it really is enough. I mean, the only reason you'd go for the plug-in hybrid in Ireland anyway is because it's cheaper. But I like this engine. It's revvy, it's torquey. It just has a nice BMW petrol engine feel to it. It's just missing that straight six rumble from all those years ago. And if you do want that, you can get the M50, which has 400 brake horsepower, bonkers performance. Two options for the suspension in this car, so you can get adaptive dampers. You've got sport and then just normal mode. I'm in normal mode now. It's nice, it's not fidgety, it's a little bit firm if you hit the wrong pothole at the wrong angle with the wrong wheel. And then just a click of my modes and into sport. The car gets louder, it will hold on to the revs for longer. Steering feels heavier, and yes, the suspension is noticeably more, just that spring is there now, and you can feel it into the car. You can change gears with the paddles if you wish. It does give you a sporting feel, and again, this is not anywhere near the most potent petrol engine you can get in this car, but it goes into corners very, very well. There's really not a huge sense of lean or body roll into corners. If you are someone who enjoys, spirited driving at times, I think you'll enjoy it. There is an augmented sound as well that maybe makes you feel like you're driving an M car or something, but it's nice. And the interior has now gone red, just to let me know I'm in sport mode. A little bit of, when you lift off, you get that feeling in the car. So yeah, it's not bad. Back into, so there's also efficient mode, or just personal, which is normal. Everything calms down, dials back a bit, and you're on the way to collect the kids. Breathe. That's kind of the different worlds that you can have in this car. It's a nice seating position, good visibility all around, huge big mirrors. I don't know how they got such a decent drag coefficient, but those bad boys on the side, but it's all right. There's 100 kilometers an hour. Just felt like about 5 seconds or so. So a comfortable car to get around in, decent bit of space. Fuel efficiency in this, again, like, it's going to be specific to whatever car you are in. Obviously 10 litres per 100 kilometers. Now it's getting test drives. I come back to you when I have a week-long drive of this in Ireland to give you a better understanding of fuel efficiency, but looking like approximately maybe 750, 700-ish kilometers from a full tank of petrol in this one. There's no doubt the 20D is what you want if you want ultimate fuel efficiency, or the PHEV, which is probably the one I'd be going for. Just would be interested to see how the extra weight changes the dynamics of the drive of the car, but we'll have to wait and see on that. So into a corner now, and it hunkers down well. They've made the car more rigid, the track is wider, particularly on the M50, so they were kind of at pains to point that out to us at the conference yesterday, just say it should be a more agile car than the previous version. The PHEV version will be built in South Africa, one other plant in America where they'll build X3, and then the specific long wheelbase version will be built in China. So 3 essentially different plants around the world. So yeah, my main problem is I don't think X5 drivers are going to like this, because this is cutting their lunch and it's a good bit cheaper. Time for my final thoughts on the new BMW X3. A proven, tried and tested formula for BMW around the world, and hard to believe it's coming up now nearly 22 years since we saw the first version of this car. I really like it. Just based on this engine powertrain, it's decent enough to drive. You've got 48 volt mild hybrid technology working in tandem with the petrol engine. Interested to try the PHEV, of course I am, but you know what, it's proportionally now so close to what in your head anyway. I mean, side by side an X5 is going to be bigger. There's an X7 over that, it's over there, it's bigger again. But if you've had an X5, maybe the kids have grown up, you don't bring them around as much, I would be happy trading down from an X5 into the new X3. I don't own an X5, but you know what I mean. So first impressions, really good. Looks perhaps subjective. You let me know in the comments down below what you think. And thank you for coming with me this far today here on Knob Beyond Cars with the new BMW X3 in Munich. If you'd like to support the channel, there's ways to do it. There's hoodies that you can buy. All the details of the shop are linked down below. Please consider sharing this video with someone who might be interested. And most importantly, hitting that like button, because it helps with YouTube's fancy algorithm. Raining again. Goodbye for now.